Talk about extreme. California Democrat politicians just killed a bill in the state legislature that would have made it a felony crime to purchase an underage child for sex. That's right. We'll tell you about the insane things that went down on this bill and what we're doing to fight back to protect our children. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California. And let's just be very blunt here. California Democrat politicians don't seem to be concerned about the welfare of our children. In fact, they keep passing bills that put our children in danger, and they keep refusing to support bills that would protect our children. And we have a laundry list of examples. Remember, California politicians just weakened the sex offender registry laws with SB 145. That's a bill they passed back in 2020 that would allow someone as old as 10 years older than a 14-year-old to molest a child and escape mandatory registry on the sex offender list. It's insane. SB 145 was a slap in the face to all of us who are concerned about predators targeting underage children. And by the way, it was sold as a bill to protect LGBT rights, which has nothing to do with LGBT rights. We also saw last year controversy over SB 14 by Shannon Grove. The bill was killed by Democrats. And the bill would have basically required that a felony crime be considered for anyone who recruits and traffics a minor for sex in California. SB 14, fortunately, ultimately passed. And the reason why is that there was a public outcry across the state when the Democrats killed SB 14. And then, lickety split, the Democrats changed their votes once the voters, woke up and were angry. They changed their votes and then passed it by September of last year. SB 14 is now the law in the state of California, as it should be. It is now a felony to traffic a child for purposes of sex trade. So now what is the controversy here? SB 1414 from the same state senator that authored Senate Bill 14 last year goes on the other side of the transaction. So the SB 14 law made it a crime, a felony crime to traffic a child. SB 1414 will now make it a crime, a felony crime to purchase a child. I know, let this sink in for just a moment. It already is not a felony crime to purchase a child. I mean, this is insane. Senator Shannon Grove says, quote, SB 1414 states that any individual who solicits, agrees to engage in, or engages in any act of commercial sex with a minor will face felony charges. If passed, SB 1414 will hold offenders accountable under strict liability, meaning buyers can't just claim they thought the child was of age. They will face imprisonment in prison, along with fines up to $25,000 and mandatory registration as a sex offender. She goes on to say, we must continue to shed light on the darkness of human trafficking, bring justice and protection to those who are most vulnerable. We are sending a clear message with SB 1414. Not one more child should have to suffer at the hands of those who seek to exploit and harm them. Bravo, State Senator Shannon Grove. And this is a very important add-on to the legislation that she was able to lead on and get implemented last year. What did the Democrats do? They killed the bill. They basically killed it in committee. And the whole concept is that they need to study it more. Well, I don't think you have any need to study it. The reality is that this is a rising trend in California. With an open border, a lot of the children are Latino, both girls and boys. And the cartels basically take them and put them into this trafficking scenario. We also have a number of laws in California that Democrats have enacted, making it harder to crack down on prostitution. Last year in January, a law went into effect that prohibited police officers from detaining someone who is soliciting or loitering for the purpose of solicitation for sex. That is a tool that police officers need to detain someone who is being trafficked so that they can be protected. And then they go after the trafficker. The Democrats said that it was attacking brown people and gay people and trans people, but that's not the case at all. Again, each of these laws that we're trying to implement will make it impossible for law enforcement to actually have the tools to protect these children. And SB 1414 is a common sense law. Who would oppose this? Well, the Democrats say they need more time to study it, but really what they're saying is they don't want to criminalize sex trade. They've said that before. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez once was caught on a tape saying sex work is real work. It's predatory. It is ruining the lives of these kids. Most of these kids are trafficked starting at a young age, and it is in a very abusive relationship between their trafficker and the person being trafficked. We need these laws to be put into place so that we can protect these individuals from more harm. Now, you've got on the opposite end of the spectrum, Democrats showing that they don't care about kids in the form of stripping parental rights to know about what's going on with their children in schools, and also making California a sanctuary state for underage youth to come without the permission of their parents from other states and be given taxpayer-funded gender-bending surgeries and treatments. This is horrific. And then the reason why I want to, put a fine point on this, again, I'm a live and let live guy. If people want to be transgender as an adult, go find yourself, be happy, live your best life. But children should not be pressured or encouraged to make life-altering decisions, decisions that really have ramifications that can't be undone at an early age. They're not old enough. 80%, and this is according to the LGBT research, all the various studies on trans issues, 80% of children who question their gender go on to affirm their biological gender. They're questioning it, but then they grow up and they consider more, life experiences. It was just a phase, and they lead a happy life. If you're getting them at that vulnerable point and then saying, no, go ahead and do it, it's premature. They do not have the ability to consent. This is not a decision that should be made at that point. What these kids need is unconditional love from their parents. And the parents can't support them if they don't know. And so the Democrats have put in place these don't tell parents laws, both at the state level and at the local level. And parents are rising up. There's a ballot measure that we support that would require parental notification. It would protect girls' sports, and it would require parental consent for any sort of therapies or surgeries. Common sense stuff, right? But the Democrats do not want this initiative to get a fair hearing. So what they've done is they've changed the title on the initiative. The initiative's title is actually the Protect Kids Act of California, the Protect Kids of California Act. That's what the proponents have written in. But the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, the Democrat, has put a false and defamatory, misleading title on the ballot measure. He's calling it the Restricts Rights of Transgender Youth Initiative. Now, let me just say, under the 14th Amendment, children do not have the rights to do these things. Parents have the rights. So when they say, oh, you're restricting the rights, no, you're not. What the Democrats have done is they have eviscerated the rights of parents by robbing the parents of parental notification. If you don't have the right, if you don't have the knowledge of what's going on with your child, then you can't actually exercise your right. This is an affirmative decision by the government to withhold information that the parent has a right to know about their child, because only the parent has the right to govern the affairs of their children. And all of that is according to the mountains of case law that the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, has issued since the 1940s. It's not just a conservative court that's saying this. All sorts of different philosophies on the court have held that parents under the 14th Amendment have the ultimate right to govern the affairs of their children, and governing the affairs of your children includes the right to know about what's going on with a child. So there is no restriction of rights going on here. Mr. Bonta is a liar, okay? The only thing he knows how to do is lie, not practice the law, not go after criminals, but lie and try to advance radical social agendas. I have some bad news, though. I've been through these challenges on these ballot measure titles, and unfortunately, the liberal judges in California, they do not side with truth or fairness. They will probably rule in favor of Rob Bonta. I'm just giving you a heads up because I've been through those court proceedings before. I know the case law in California. And what the judges say is, well, under our process, our law for title and summary on ballot measures, the voters have said the Attorney General gets to write it. And if the voters don't like what the Attorney General is doing, they can always hire a new Attorney General. That's what elections are for. So that's been, in a nutshell, with a bunch of complicated case law, in a nutshell, what the liberal judges have held. I still think that, someone can be elected to a position, but if they are violating basic decency or basic fairness or basic truth, that the court can intervene. I mean, we don't elect a dictator as governor, although Gavin Newsom thinks he's a dictator. We don't elect a dictator as mayor. You can't just say, oh, well, if someone does something wrong, you should change them at the next election. So I fundamentally disagree with the decisions of these liberal judges. But remember, these liberal judges are appointed by the Democrats. And so there's no incentive, desire for the liberal judges to side on the side of fairness. So the hearing is scheduled for later this week, and it will probably be weeks before we find out about their decision. That's why we believe at Reform California that our fight can't just be about the ballot measures, although even with a bad title, we can still pass something because we have our plain English voter guide, and a lot of voters come to Reform California to get the plain English voter guide, which we publish in each election, and it's been very effective in opening the eyes of voters to the false and misleading ballot titles. You can get the voter guide, by the way, online at reformcalifornia.org. And that information is all up in this top bar. Now, what we need to do is also elect better state legislators, better local elected officials, particularly school board members, who make policies on our children, better sheriffs, better district attorneys who can enforce the law against predators. And so I urge you, help us get that voter guide out by chipping in a contribution. Go to reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org, chip in a contribution so that we can get the voter guide out, not only giving the public the true title and summary, an accurate title on these ballot measures to give us a fighting chance to pass them, but also so that we have elected officials in office at every level, particularly school boards, all the way up to state legislature, who will stand up for the rights of our children, who will protect our children, who will go and fight the criminals and the traffickers in this state. That's the latest here at Reform California, a disappointing rejection of SB 1414, an even more disappointing false and defamatory and misleading ballot title on the Protect Our Kids initiative in California. But we will continue the fight. If you can join us, that's how we will win. reformcalifornia.org. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification button so you can stay up to date on all the developments in California news and politics. Also, please visit the website, reformcalifornia.org, for ongoing news coverage and to join one of our campaigns in the fight to take back our state. If you can, please sign up as a volunteer or chip in a contribution. This episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio, paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly 2024.